I thought it was something I said.
No, it wasn't. That was my apologies. I was attempting to take my leave of the conference, and instead of hit leave, hit end. So I see I've got Dave. I see we've got Mike. Is Charles back yet? I don't see him back.
Thank you for. Yeah.
All right, good. I'm going to go ahead and drop off. You've got it. Sorry about that, everyone. My apologies. I don't think I see Nikki, and who did we have that was also on that hasn't joined again. Dave was taking his leave, but Janet, I don't see that she's called back in as of yet.
She might have been sharing Dave's phone.
Ah, okay. All right. Good call. I've got to take my leave at this time, though, everyone. I'll look to hear everyone same place, same time next week.
Thank you, Lewis. Bye.
See you, Lewis.
All right. So we've got Dave in the thumb, Michael, and myself, it looks like. That sound right, guys?
I can't see the board.
All right. Well,
but yeah, this is Dave.
All right. Is Michael still with us?
Hang on a minute. I'll be back. I got a call here on the other line. Let's see who that is. Might be Mike Phillip.
All right. Michael, are you with us? Maybe a little bit distracted. I guess I got bumped off the call. But I came back. That kind of disoriented me. I was hoping for a smoother transition there. And it looks like we're down to just a few of us. Michael must be distracted with something too, and so is David. And so I guess we'll just hold the forum here. Yeah, maybe I'll send a text to Michael. Okay. Well, I'm not going to hang up as long as I see you guys still here, at least not within the next few minutes or so. Hopefully one of you will come back and we can continue with some pertinent discussion here.
Okay, I'm back.
Dave, how's things going?
It's going all right. How was the think tank?
Can you define
I think last Wednesday, you guys, Michael invited me to a think tank, I think with you, last Wednesday evening. I wasn't able to make it at 9 p.m. Is Michael on the call?
He shows, but he's texting me.
Oh.
Michael, are you there?
Is he texting me too? No.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. My black buddy that I said was an ex-Pontiac cop. That was him who called me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see Michael on the board, but apparently he can't hear us. He's texting.
Oh, really? Tell him to call back in.
Yeah, I texted him to said call back.
Okay. So where are you now? You're in Texas now?
That's true, Dave.
And are you got your own place, or are you with somebody?
I got a place. I'm in an economically depressed town. I got a house that's pretty beat up, but I'm only paying $100 a month, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can get by and still do some work with my meager Social Security check.
Right. Well, good.
Yeah.
And whereabouts is that? What? North, south, east, west? Are you in the Panhandle or by Dallas or Houston, Austin?
Pretty much dead center. If you know where Abilene is, I'm just a little bit southeast, mostly south, a little bit east of Abilene.
Okay.
Yeah, and southwest of Houston. Or no, Dallas. Southwest of Dallas by about 120 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we back on here, huh?
There you are.
Michael, you must have been disconnected there. You were showing up on the screen, but I couldn't establish voice contact with you there.
Yeah, I was on another phone call that came in. I got hung up on it. It dropped us all off. And are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it dropped us all off, and I called back in. Then I got a phone call. So,
yeah.
Who's all on now?
Just you, me, and Dave from the Thumb.
Oh, okay.
Regarding the productivity of the call thus far, I recognize that we did kind of indulge a few people there, probably more than would be professional. But I kind of think in the long run, both Dallas and Lewis felt more like they were actual members of the community as the result of our indulging them a bit. But maybe now we can get down to some more serious nuts and bolts. Smaller group here, and who else do we got? Gary in Michigan. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, 4 of us. Michael, you know both Gary and Dave quite well, and me. You know all three of us probably better than we know each other. Would you care to assume the lead in trying to produce some productive discussion and consensus building between all 4 of us?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an enigma in America, a big enigma. We have a big problem, and it's enforcement. We have no enforcement. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do to get traction to achieve enforcement?
You phrased that more well-pointedly than I think you have in the past. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would suggest that sending out the 2 documents that I've composed, the constructive notice of treason document and the building self-governing communities document, that should cause building enforcement right there. Because first we send them out to whatever public servants we might be concerned with to give them notice, but in our recruiting efforts, we ask our potential recruits to also send documents by email or hand delivery to local government officials that are maybe of concern to them. We start promoting. This is my strategy in my mind. We start directing local concerned people as to how to set the stage for prosecuting a criminal complaint against a corrupted public servant, any corrupted public servant that they might be concerned with. And the 2 documents I'm describing set the stage for that, and further, they set the stage for our courts having our own town constable peace officers that are quite capable of making arrests. In fact, that is the optimal mechanism in our entire system of America.
if I may, let's discuss what you just said about town constables making arrests.
Yes.
Okay, that right there, most people, if they heard that and were totally ignorant about what's going on, it would scare them, and they would think this is too radical, and they wouldn't want to be involved.
I dare suggest, Michael, we cannot appeal to the lowest common denominator. We got to appeal to the people with intelligence.
Okay, the problem is, and I just feel like I'm beating a dead horse, and nobody is hearing it. We can't.
Oh, Mike, I hear you. I hear you plain and clear.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm an old military guy, and I keep asking. This is Gary Don, the thumb identification. I keep asking the question of everybody. Doesn't matter what call that I'm on. Demonstrate to me how this works. You're going to be a marshal, and you've got the grand jury, and maybe you can get one of your best buddies that talks about all this authority that the marshals have. And so you bring the thing all into the group, and they give the marching orders to the federal marshals, the ones that they've brought in, okay, new ones, and you say, go arrest so-and-so, okay? Now, I've said to people, now, this may not, when I was in the military, and if I'd have got injured for life, I'd have got some kind of disability. Not that I was wanting disability, but there was something for it. My son-in-law was a state trooper in Virginia. He had a rollover in a car and a chase with drugs and all that stuff. And he will never work again. He's getting a very nice pension and different gratuities because of what happened to him. You understand? If that had been a federal marshal that just volunteered to be federal marshal or whatever it is like they're talking about, what's the reality of him getting anything? In duty, when he's in duty. So, you know, these are hypothetical questions and answers. I don't like to bring up these things, but someone has to base in reality is saying, what do we do with what we have? You see, and I keep hearing all the experts out here say, "Oh, well, we got this group together, we got that group together." Well, where are they? Are they in one of the groups? Are they a marshal? Or are they in a governorship of the whole thing? You can be held responsible for bringing something against the I'd like to change this too. But how do you go about it? I said this the other night when I was first on the call. I've been listening to this for 40 years, over and over, and I haven't seen anybody who's successful. That's the problem I have.
If I might, we live in a Nazi police state. We're not going to be successful until we engineer an orchestrated revolt. It's going to take organized masses demanding significant change at one time. Until then, we're going to continue to be treated like slaves, and with all due respect, people whining about I haven't seen anything successful yet is a distraction. We need to be talking about how we are going to confront the evil empire that is advancing against us. They are the aggressors. We've got to go to the battle stations and assume our most powerful, lawful position to use force to defend ourselves against these Nazi criminals. I yield.
But Charles, if I may briefly, Gary, Charles, that's what Gary is saying. He agrees with that we've got to organize, but he's just simply making an observation that for 40 years he's seen a lot of people talking about taking the country back, but nobody succeeded. You know who has succeeded the most in recent history? That would be the situation with the family out there in the West. I'm sorry,
Bundy's.
I forget his name.
Bundy's.
The
Bundy's?
Yeah, Cliven and Amon Bundy. Yeah. They actually turned back federal agents in large numbers, and they stopped, a possible savage takeover by the federal government out west. Now, in the courts, they're experiencing a different story from what I hear. I guess they're facing some problems still. I'm not really up on all the details, but from what I understand, there's still problems of tyranny in the courts. But when it came to the physical confrontation, because they were able to achieve large numbers of fellow community participants, they were able to stop the tyranny, the physical tyranny. We did it in our little county commission meeting because we outnumbered them. So we didn't obey their demand to shut up and quit cheering our speakers. Now that's a minor success, but it's a success, and it's based on, the fact that we outnumbered them. No violence took place. It was just a simple orchestration of physical power with our voice, with our clapping, that overrode their demand. Now, I yield back to Gary. I'm sorry. I don't want to go on too long. I yield. Gary.
I yield back to you. I made the point. I don't like to bellinger it because I agree with Charles and you also and other people. It's the wrong thing to do. But I go back to Judge Doucette, for example. Judge Doucette has put his whole life out there in the hand, and it's well. Anna said he did it wrong. He did this wrong. He did that wrong, and all this BS. Well, then whoever thinks it's wrong, why don't they step up to the plate and get Judge Doucette and the Colorado 9 out? Judge Doucette was willing to come here to Michigan and set up the system as he believed it could be, and had a real good success around the country. And he did all those things. He even met with Anna, and he was told not to. And they can jump up and down and do everything they want. My point is, until we can put a program together that we can get the Colorado 8, 9, or whatever it is, completely free of prison, then we've accomplished something. Why would we want to keep continuing what we're doing with the possibilities of putting some more people in prison for life? For life. What did they do wrong? Tell me. Anybody can tell me what Hannah says, they did it all wrong. Well, tell me what they did wrong. Go ahead.
Hi, Gary Dons. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I always like to hear you on here. So, Pam from Michigan.
Hi, Pam.
Hi. Okay. Thank you for correcting me, David. And if it wasn't for David, I probably wouldn't be here. And so you guys all know that
if it wasn't for your mom and dad, you wouldn't be here.
Neither one of us would be here if it wasn't for my mom and dad.
You're right.
Basically. And, I'm not saying that I have any more privileges than anybody else, but I'm very fortunate to be married to Dave because he knows all this stuff. And so in answer to your question, I think that pretty basically what I was saying is David is a smart one. He's educating me through being on these calls about history and common law, and kind of got put into a situation, I think, because of medical issues. In Michigan, I believe that the ones that know, and the ones that don't know, and this is covering everything. And so you're dealing with attorneys and stuff that try and take from the people, and we know those people in different counties. And this is one of the states that they're very good at it. And they take over their homes, their families, and they harvest them. and whatever else they do with them, test them, use them as guinea pigs, and then they put innocent people in jail.
Pam.
And they try them for their patience. I yield.
Now,
Pam, we were trying to get past discussing the problem. We're trying to work towards talking about solutions, I believe.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a little history. In history, one thing about history, it always repeats itself. And this just asks the question of the people out here. How many people know who Aaron Burr is? Pat,
I know who Aaron Burr is, and I don't like quizzes. If you got a point, please make it. Our time is valuable.
Okay. Aaron Burr was a real patriot.
I agree.
And Aaron, when George Washington and Jefferson and his cohorts got together, they made Hamilton the head of the federal bank.
Jefferson didn't participate in Hamilton being part of the federal bank. Jefferson hated Hamilton.
Oh, whoever, it doesn't matter. But he was involved. So Aaron Burr come along and he says, "We're not going to have that Jew as anything to do with our money system." My forefathers were all well aware of the money changers. They knew all about them. They were brought up with it in the churches. It didn't matter if it was a Methodist or a Baptist or a Congregationalist. The old timers knew all these things. That's why they had such big audiences. All these churches are up throughout the country. They had a big clientele because the truth is being told from the pulpits. Well, anyhow, William Burr said this isn't going to happen. So he challenged Hamilton. There's a big show, I guess, being produced in New York about it. And he shot and killed him. Okay? There was 2 trials. Okay, the first trial, he was found not guilty of murder, and the second trial, he was found not guilty. They tried him twice. That doesn't sound like good law to me, but this is what they did so they could try and get Aaron Burr. Now, if we had some Aaron Burrs out here, okay, maybe, just maybe, we'd have somebody as a leader. We don't have any leaders to lead the scenario where it's at. I'm not one. I'm 85. What do you think I could lead?
Thank you for affirming that. Maybe Michael is one, or maybe Gary is one, or maybe others will jump in and they'll appear. But we need to be making progress forward. It sounds to me, with all due respect, that you're complaining about a lack of leadership. Maybe we should focus on solutions and what we need to do, and maybe the people that are talking about really getting serious about solutions will be able to fill the gap of Aaron Burr that you're experiencing here, my friend.
Thank you. I'm not against those things. If you knew me personally, we're certified organic farm here. If you knew me personally, you would know that I'm always looking for the solutions to better food, better growth, better food things, better everything for the farm. So no, I'm negative in the area because no one's answering the question. If someone would just answer it for me, and I've been on all kinds of programs over the years. You know, I was in some of the first works we had in Michigan, going back to the time we had a Baptist minister as the head of the militia here, and all that crap that went on. So I've been around a while, and I see it. I'm not against anybody. But what I'm saying to you, we shouldn't be trying anything right now until we get the Colorado people out.
We can't get the Colorado people out unless we start trying some stuff.
Well, that's fine. I'm willing to listen.
All right. Well, thank you.
Any way we can participate, but we don't need more trouble until we can take care of their thing. They got wives, families, you know, and I know these people personally.
If we're not going to get the Colorado 9 out of jail unless we start risking starting some trouble with the people that have falsely imprisoned them. They are criminals. The people that railroaded the Colorado 9 are criminals, and we are not going to get them out unless we declare that those people that are in jail are not criminals, and the people that railroaded them into are the criminals, and they should change places. That's the kind of talk we need to be talking if we're going to make any progress here. I yield.
If I may,
Michael.
I'd like to respond to Gary Don's proposition that we must first get the Colorado 9 out of jail. Gary, with all due respect, I respect you greatly, but here's the problem. You're not going to get the common folk out here to rally and get active and spend time, energy, and money trying to get those 8 or 9 people out of jail. They're going to look at that case and they're going to laugh. Most people out here are ignorant of common law and the facts and the tyranny. The only way we're going to get people to rally to a cause is if it affects them in some fashion or form. We have to find a common denominator, threat, violation, offense that the common man or woman can get behind. And COVID-19 right now is one of those issues. The technology companies such as YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter that are censoring people, eliminating their years of hard work with a push of a button, deleting their channel. That'll get people active. The Federal Reserve, the fact that the Federal Reserve Bank has stolen our country's freedom. If you can get people to see that, they will rally behind that. The crime of 9/11 is another one. These are the type of issues that we can use to get people active.
Excuse me, Mike. I'm sorry to cut you off. Could you get closer to your phone? You're kind of hard to hear. We're sharing a phone here, Pam and I, and she's trying to take notes, and we can't really hear you too well.
Okay, I'm talking right into my speaker. Maybe I had my thumb over the microphone. I apologize.
All right, you're kind of... Not much, no, but go ahead, just continue.
Well, we've got to organize around these points of vigor, things that get people's attention. And right now, this COVID-19, I really believe that Abraham and Charles have really focused on this COVID-19 crime. And this is very important that we focus on this to get people involved. But that's just one part of the many offenses and violations that are happening. But it is one of the major ones here and now that we can make hay from. We can get traction from this. But talking about arresting government officials right now, before we even have a team built. We've got a small team built, but it's tiny. It's microscopic in the big picture of things. They could very easily misconstrue our comments and have us arrested for conspiracy to overthrow, some local government or something. They can do what they want. We really must be careful. I do not plan to arrest any officials. I would like to have due process and let the facts determine the process that is due them. But to say right now and declare that we're planning to arrest in the future officials who violate the law and our God-given rights, we can't talk like that. We're going to have problems if we continue that. And I'm just saying, because this tyranny de facto is out for blood, and they are not going to stop. And any chance they can to stop us and arrest us, they will do it. So we really must be prudent. I yield.
Thank you. Michael, are you aware of the clear and present danger doctrine?
I believe I am. Clarify for me. Put us on the same page.
Like screaming fire in a crowded theater is causing a clear and present danger, and therefore it's a criminal act to scream fire in a crowded theater because that is an immediate, real-time cause of danger of life and limb to people.
Yes.
That kind of speech is prohibited when you say words that cause immediate action. That's clear and present danger.
Yeah, I understand that and agree with that.
Okay, well, that is a very deep-rooted common law principle that the statutory de factos generally respect throughout all of their case law. Do you comprehend that?
Yeah. But right now, to be saying that, I believe is premature, preliminary, and irresponsible.
Well, this is, if I might delineate the point even more surgically precise.
Okay.
When you're correct, when we are using words that cause a clear and present danger. If we're talking about let's go arrest William Barr because he's a criminal and we just need to take him out and arrest him right now. Let's go do it right now. Let's grab our guns and do it. That's a clear and present danger, sir. When we're talking about generally arresting lawfully convicted, corrupted public servants that are no longer public servants. They're usurpers. When we're talking in those kind of terms, that is not a clear and present danger. That's on the safe side of the dividing line. Do you comprehend my words?
Yeah, I do. But here's the point I'm making. We are trying to build a machine, a house. Okay, we're building a machine and a house. We first have to get people to help us do it. To start talking about the color of the carpet, the color of paint we're going to put on the trim, or, what color of toilet is premature. Sure, we're going to do that. That needs to be done. That's important. But to do it before we even have the people that are going to help us do it, that is premature and irresponsible. And that's all I'm saying. We need to stay focused on getting persons, people involved to build this house and design and construct this machine.
May I?
Yes, I yield.
I find your choice of words ambiguous, sir. What are you saying that we can't talk about? Are you saying that when people are coming to us asking us whether or not they should join, whether or not we're going to be forever toothless and never do anything and just talk metaphysical mumbo jumbo, are you saying we can't give them assurances that yes, we will eventually arrest the criminal conspirators that are reducing us as slaves? Is that your proposition? I yield.
I have every intention and hope, and it is my prayer that the tyrannists are arrested, convicted, and prosecuted and punished to the fullest extent of the law. Okay, that's without saying. I absolutely agree with that.
No, with all due respect, I think we need to be saying it. In our proper sentence structure of where we at, we are reaffirming like a mantra what we are doing and why we are doing it. And I think the issue of arrest of the criminal treasonous conspirators needs to be part of our regular affirmation public of what we are doing and why we are doing it.
Well, I think it's understood that if we get power to prosecute, arrest and punishment will occur. That doesn't need to be frequently declared, as I'm often hearing.
I think we're losing people that are tired of metaphysical mumbo-jumbo when we don't affirm it on a regular basis, sir.
I think it's understood. That's our purpose.
The world's full of metaphysical mumbo-jumbo here, sir. If we're a rare bird that has courage, that people like the people that made the difference in the Bundy Ranch standoff, They were there because the Bundys had courage. And courage attracts other courage. And if we don't even have the courage to say the words, how are we going to attract the people with courage to do the deeds?
Hey, we can't even build a team yet. Why are we worried about the words we speak when we can't even build a team yet?
The words we speak are how we build the team. We can't build the team unless we speak the correct words, sir.
I think certain words and certain phrases can repel a potential team member. I think people are common thinking people for the most part. They might not be intellectual, but they realize that you first got to build a team before you start dreaming about arresting people.
We're talking about creating a new form of government wherein everybody is held accountable under the rule of law, aren't we?
If I may.
But I think it was, I yield. Go ahead.
I yield.
Charles or John or Dave.
Yeah, am I unmuted here?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I just had to jump in here. Charles, I appreciate your enthusiasm, your passion, but I got to agree with Gary and Mike. And on this one, we have to build an assembly, we the people, before we start talking about, obviously we're all on the same page. We know these evil, rotten, criminal sons of bitches need to be, tried and, hung for treason, right, for their crimes against humanity. But we can't be going out recruiting, self-governing people with that being the message, because we will get arrested just like those that are sitting rotting in prison in many states, not just Colorado. This movement is pretty new to me. I know you guys have been talking about this for a long time. I've only been in this movement for about 10 years. And I'm not as educated as you guys are on it. But there's a lot of people that have been fighting these tyrants for a long time, and they're either dead or they're in prison, and their families are missing the hell out of them. And we have no enforcement, and I don't think we can build enforcement before we build the movement. We have to have the movement. We got to have we the people first, and then we build the enforcement out of that movement. And I don't think the message should be that we're going to go and start arresting people, because let's say we build the team of constables or whatever you call them, and they start going arresting people. Where are they going to put them? We don't have any jails. We don't have, we have no means of housing or any of that stuff until we grow this movement and we have a critical mass, right? So I think, Mike is on the right path, and I think Gary's got some incredible questions. He's been around. Gary was at Ruby Ridge, when they shot Randy Weaver's wife. And so Gary's been in this movement for a freaking hell of a long time. And, Doucette, he was at the Bundy's ranch, and he was at the Mauer Game Preserve there in Oregon. And, I know some others that were there with the Bundys and helped fend off the BLM, the first BLM, not the second BLM. And isn't that incredible that the BLM morphed into the BLM? Anyway, I yield, guys. Thank you. You guys still there? Did I bore you to tears?
No, I'm
No.
here. I'm
just here.
Thinking.
Bruce Lee wrote a book called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. Jeet Kune Do is how it was titled in Chinese. But there's a traditional principle of war, Sun Tzu. The best defense is a good offense. Okay? And with all due respect to you fellas, it seems like you're thinking purely defense. And anybody that knows anything about battle strategy, I believe, will comprehend that anybody that's thinking in pure terms of defense is not a competent warrior. You got to be thinking about what you're going to do about the devil worshippers that are destroying the planet, the Earth. So with all due respect to you fellas, I think you don't comprehend really the nature of the spiritual battle that we're in.
If I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Pam from Michigan. David and Thumb's wife. So some people see the tyranny and the horrible stuff, but they don't know the steps to build a team, to go after them, or have the ammunition to go after them. Then they're like sitting ducks, and those will be the ones that try to do it, and Colorado will get out, and those will go in. Am I right or wrong? I yield.
Well, with all due respect to yourself and the Colorado Nine and many other basically well-intended patriots that have gone before, both Hartford Van Dyke and I told the Colorado group before they got prosecuted that they were doing it wrong, that they were being stupid. They wouldn't listen to us. They went ahead and did their commercial liens, and that has blown up in the faces of other people, better people than them before. The Montana Freemen were much more intellectually advanced than the Colorado Nine. The Montana Freemen got destroyed by using the commercial liens. They should have been doing pure common law, talking about organizing their townships. They were talking about that a little bit, but they were relying on the commercial remedy, like the Colorado Nine, and that is an error. It's valid, it's legitimate, but once you start causing the bad guys pain, then they are going to railroad your butt off into jail, no due process of law, and guess what? You're not organized to resist them, because all you've been relying on is liens, and that ain't working. See, we have to have something that works, and it's better if it's invoking serious common law jurisdiction rather than commercial or administrative jurisdiction, because it's only through our common law jurisdiction that we have our peace officers that have the constitutionally guaranteed right to make the arrests that eventually, if we're going to save this nation, we're going to have to be talking about. I yield.
Okay, that's pretty fast for me. I can't write that fast. But so I agree if they weren't doing it the proper way. And so what I think happens is people start to do the process, and then you got the de factos coming in from, one frequency, you know what I mean by that, or another one, to usurp the situation to, slow it down or whatever. It's a process. It is definitely a process, and if you don't know it, and if you're not working with a team, then you definitely are unable to go forward. Is that right?
Well, we definitely need a team, as Michael has emphasized repeatedly. We definitely need our numbers. And please, I think perhaps I may be taken a little bit out of context here, that I've repeatedly stated that our first step is to send the de facto's paperwork, telling them that they are involved in a treasonous conspiracy, they need to stop, and that if they don't stop, we've got the right to organize our own responsibly self-governing communities and to make arrests against criminals of all forms that trespass against us. These are preliminary paper steps, just documents going back and forth, notifying people, and at the end of it, it says, please reply within 30 days, or else we will presume that you have agreed with everything that we have said in here by way of your default and failure to respond. And then 30 days passes, and they haven't done anything, and but their jackbooted Nazis are still out here cracking skulls and railroading people off into jail, maybe starting to mass military vaccines and things like that are nasty, looking like it's ratcheting up against us. And if we've got our paperwork already delivered to these jackbooted Nazis, then and they've defaulted, then we've got lawful authority for our town constables, our peace officers, our duly authorized and publicly recognized and declared peace officers to resist the criminal conspirators with force. This is how the squares on the chessboard are controlled, is with force. We're not going to get any influence on the cosmic chessboard here unless we are prepared to resort to force. And we can't be prepared to resort to force unless we're talking amongst our people and about assuming the right to use force. And, yeah, I better yield there. I yield.
If I may respond, Pam. So regarding, like what Michael said, violations being a priority, which is right now our health. And so if someone has already requested paperwork from their legal department, I'll just say, of the county or state or whatever, and they did not deliver, they requested, that person to go down and pick them up, right there at the office. Is that my violation or their violation, or whoever party that did not go and pick them up when the first request was made?
I don't comprehend what you're asking. What do you mean by pick them up? Who are you saying pick up what?
Okay, so if somebody requested the paperwork,
the paperwork. You're talking about the constructive notice of treason and the responsibly self-governing communities document that I've suggested here. Is that correct?
No, I'm just asking for all paperwork that is rightfully the person whose lawful business was handled by.
Oh, have we changed subjects? Are we talking about business being dismantled here? I didn't hear us change subjects here.
Well, it's a question. It's a question. So we want to talk about violations, right? And we want to stop the violations, health violations. Right now we're dealing with this, massive vaccination deal. So with that being said, if a person has had a legal department, an attorney, whatever, take control of this person's private properties, all of their assets and everything, and handle their stuff for them. And somebody put in a request to have all their paperwork given to them, and they would handle it, and the attorney said, well, you'll have to come down and get it. So, and that person didn't go down and get their papers, okay, because the request is made to be sent, and they didn't send them. So who is in default? I yield.
I don't comprehend any value in whatever you're trying to ask there. Maybe somebody else comprehends what you're trying to say, sister, better than me. Please, can somebody summarize what the sister just said, Pam? Can anybody else here summarize that in a manner that I might be able to comprehend? I yield.
We'll just take it off the table.
If I may shift gears for a second, I think we really have forgotten one major fact that is happening here. You know, when the founders put together this country, the education level of history and language and English far exceeded that which the common person has today. Our founders were head and shoulders above us in their knowledge, their wisdom, biblical understanding, everything. They exceeded us, you know, multiple times over. And in the Christian nature of the people of that time in the 1700s, they exceeded us, you know, multiple times over. So here we are with that deficiency. 240 years later, we have an extreme deficiency. And I believe it was Adams who said that this Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people, and it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. This is something we need to take into consideration, because we're pushing uphill, and our cart has rusty ball bearings, and the horse is sick, and the people don't know how to, you know, guide the horse and steer the cart. They're lacking knowledge. They're ignorant. That's the typical American person today. The critical masses are sheeple, they're ignorant, they're lazy, and they don't know what they don't know. So we've got to figure out a way to get these people interested in doing something they normally find boring and irrelevant. That's the enigma we have. And until we figure out how to, you know, solve that problem, I think we're really in a pickle. We are in a pickle.
If I may. Okay, so I asked my friend. She's very smart. She looks up everything. She is just like on top of it, man. You say something and she's already said, man, Sirius is already looking up for me. She loves it. So I asked her, I said, you know, I was just talking on these different calls with my husband, you know, and they're just talking about a republic. What's a republic? And she goes, well, hold on a minute. And she goes, and she starts reading and she goes, oh, okay, you know. And I said, so how do we get these delegates, you know? And she's like, hold on a minute, you know. And so those are the kind of people that, you know, are thinkers, that they don't want us to think, right? So that's, I think the first question you need to ask is, what's a republic? You know, I mean, and she says, well, it's a Republican, you know, and then you got the Democrats. And I said, I don't think so, you know, and I let her do all the answers. I don't tell her them, you know. And David says, why do you make yourself look stupid? But a lot of times I'm looking for validation. You know, I don't want to take the first person's answer. It's just like I listen to these calls and I'm like, I don't know. You know, I listen to this one. You know. So that's why I ask the smartest people I know, what is it? And what does it mean to them? And so when she told me, you know, there's a Republic and there's a Democrat. But that really isn't the answer, is it? Because the Republic is not anarchy. It's not a democracy. It's, you know, we are a republic. And I said, Michigan was one of the first counties or first states to be seated or something. I forget exactly what I said. David, you remember what I said? And so it interested her. She was interested in knowing more about it. And then she, you know, went to look up how we get our delegates and what's an electoral, you know. So I just kind of went that route. And I think it kind of interested her to seek more into it. So I yield.
Were we focused on any particular issue of importance here?
Nothing's important, really.
I thought we had some important issues here, but it seems like we kind of lost track of them. Is there anybody that can help us refocus on issues of like saving the country from tyranny and despotism?
If I may, I can resume the point that I was making. We have a people who are lacking character and knowledge, understanding, and wisdom in comparison to the founders who created this marvelous experiment called the Constitution, American Republic. In order for us to save it and restore it, we must figure out a way to overcome the extreme liability that exists in the people that we have to work with, who are ignorant, lazy, and lacking knowledge, which is ignorant. I'm beating a dead horse, it seems. I just know that we have a real problem with who and what we have to work with. We don't have the same caliber of citizen that existed in the 13 colonies. Not even close. So what do? I yield.
If I might, I don't agree with your proposition there, Michael. You may be right, but we don't have consensus on that point. The point about the population in 1776 being so much more enlightened than our population now, it may have been, but I don't think it's nearly as much as you're saying, and I certainly question whether or not it's such a vast difference. But more to the point, what we're going to do now is no matter what the numbers are now, we need to motivate the people that do have eyes to see and ears to hear to join with us. That's the task at hand. We can't be appealing to the lowest common denominator with a bunch of McDonald's and Disneyland sales gimmicks. We got to be appealing to people of intellectual capacity.
If I may interject, I'm sorry, Charles, just briefly. What can you elaborate on why you said Disneyland gimmicks? Did someone in the past present that as an option?
Well, I wasn't searching for dwelling on that point, but I do know that similar efforts that I've been involved in the past is almost offering bingo lotteries and stuff to raise money for stuff like this.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, go ahead. That's all.
There's some really goofy ideas, and even if it is somewhat patriotic and relevant, it's frequently not dwelling on the pivotal issues. I think that when we're circulating our communications medium, our recruitment advertising flyers, I think we need to be talking about the real issues rather than toning it down to try to make the lowest common denominator feel comfortable with us. And I don't want to get back into
I'm not advocating we tone it down. If you read my declaration of emergency.com, I do not tone it down. I make it very clear that the perpetrators should be arrested. I even give an example on the type of punishment. I declared that the perpetrators of this national tyranny should be on a display in prison for the rest of their life in a traveling prison on the back of a flatbed semi-truck for display traveling from capital city to capital city all over America continuously, stopping in the town square for the citizens to gather and mock and ridicule and gaze at the perpetrators.
Yeah, and strip them naked and then throw rotten tomatoes at them. See, that's nice, Michael. That's nice.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about toning anything down. I am all about punishing crime and prosecuting, with due process. But I am also after, first and foremost, is success. And we won't have success unless we get traction. And getting traction with the existing population that we have is the impasse that we are currently in. It is very difficult to find people willing to simply even come to a town hall meeting or come to a county commission meeting. I'm in a hotbed of activity down here in 3 or 4 counties. There are a handful of major issues going on. And we achieve attendance. We get people to show up, but it's a struggle. We have ups and downs, but it's a struggle. And we have some money to work with. We're not broke. We're spending some of our own hard-earned money to do these things. And yet it's not taking off like it needs to. We really must focus on a path, a strategy that can get people energized. And they are not going to get energized about civics English or the Constitution or common law rights and history. But this current COVID disgrace that's happening, this crime, I believe we can get people activated over this.
Yeah.
But we've got to come up with a strategy that is attractive, that can get people interested and succeed. And I agree, we must do it by historical precedent and constitutional principles and common law. There's no doubt about that. We must do that. And we must have due process at a goal in the future. Also, with due process comes arrest. We must have arrest in mind for the criminals.
Thank you.
But, yeah, that goes without saying, man. I'm in total agreement with you. That is undeniable fact. But right now, we've got, I believe, the goal should be to organize our assemblies. Because it is through the institution of assembly that we do everything else. Unless we are assembled, we have no right to have any consensus or to force any idea or process upon anybody. We must first have an assembly to measure the consent of the governed and articulate the consent of the governed into a strategy. We as individuals, 3 or 4 of us on this call right now, we all have great ideas. Charles, you have a strategy in mind that is superior probably to all of us. I happen to agree with it because it's similar to what I've always wanted to do. But until we get people to side with us and form a consensus and achieve the consent of the governed's approval, we have nothing. We only have an idea. It's a good idea. It's worked in the past. It should work again in the future. But until we have people to make that consent known and articulated, we cannot proceed. We can only proceed with the idea and the dream, the vision. And the vision we must have. Scripture says, my people perish without a vision.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Dave. Just on a side note on the COVID there, Mike, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Michigan Supreme Court has ruled against Gretchen Hitler that her
emergency declarations since April 30th have been unconstitutional.
Yeah, that's the second state now. Pennsylvania was first, right?
I believe so.
That's awesome.
So I don't know where we go from there, but I thought that was pretty incredible. Let's see what happens now. I think we really need to use that. We got to be able to use that to attract those non-mask wearers or those wearing masks at work that really don't want to but are being forced and don't realize that they have the power. I got a friend in Indianapolis. He actually works for the state as a mechanic at the bus depot in Indianapolis. And when he, they put down that edict and they told him they were going to be forcing him and everyone else to wear a mask at his depot, he was beside himself because he wasn't going to wear a mask. And I informed him about the ADA, and he pulled it up on his phone, and then he copied it, and he personally handed a copy of that to his human resources manager at the depot that he works at, and he said he turned around in defeat and he mumbled something, angrily, and he walked away, and nobody's wearing a mask at his, where he works, because he gave out 25 copies of that ADA, and it's got some teeth, man. And I don't think any of those folks got any disabilities, but they're not forcing them to wear masks. So anyway, I yield.
If I may. Hey, Dave, that's a good question. So where do we go from there? Where did you get that information regarding the Hitler was in violation since April? Where do I find that?
Well, our son shared that with us. There was a video, some videos on the internet about it. I think he played the Fox 2 Detroit news program where they announced that the Michigan Supreme Court ruled against Whitmer.
So that would be in some papers, right? I wouldn't want to go turning in a letter, a second step saying, okay, I saw it on the news. I would have to go to, the white papers and say this happened on this date that they declared her.
I'm sure there's a website that tells you about Michigan Supreme Court rulings. But I don't know what that is, sorry.
Did Gary Dons know that?
Are you still there, Gary?
I was muted. I'm here.
Did you hear about the Michigan Supreme Court ruling that Gretchen Whitmer was unconstitutional with her emergency edicts?
I did not hear it. I did not hear it, no.
Yep. What do you think of that?
Well, it's very interesting, to say the least. I've been told about conspiracy stuff all my life. Okay, whether this is real or not real, now the president is gouting it out all over the place. His cabinet, everybody's got COVID. Dave, it's very difficult for the average person to even come up with any type of conclusion. I work around with average people in the neighborhood, and most of the average people that are, average have died and gone. Okay, so my friends, a lot of my friends are gone. I used to have a lot of think power going on. So it's very difficult to put any stock in anything they say. They're liars and they're murderers and they're thieves, and that comes from their father when he was walking the face of this earth in his flesh and blood. He called them liars, thieves, and murderers. He said, "You're just like your father." So what do you do with the people? And then he says to the Israelite people who sell their birthright, you become twice the child of hell that they are. So we haven't. I don't know where. Dave, let me ask you this with a counter question: where would you go to find the real truth?
I think it's in history, and I think history repeats itself unless somebody stands up and stops it. And I don't think it's stoppable.
If I might,
Go ahead.
truth will come from the assemblies, the Council of the Wise Men. Come together in what we're trying to do here, and Anna's conference and the other conferences where people come together of the support, at least posture, like they're honorably concerned about these issues. All of us have different picture puzzle pieces, and it's only when the collective comes together in council that all of the picture puzzle pieces start getting put together. I yield. Somebody else was saying something there, or maybe didn't.
Oh, it's Pam.
Huh?
Pam, did that help you, Eddie?
Yes, thank you so much, Gary. And I do want to say, though, in Revelation, you know, it does end very well. I never finished it, but I know everybody says it does end very well. I'm kind of stuck on, I think, 7 or 8 or something like that. But I do need to finish it, and I believe that God gave us revelation so things would be better. So in Jeremiah 29:11, it says He's got great plans for us to prosper and have a great future. So I believe that, and I'm going to go have a dinner with my husband, and I always like getting on these calls with you guys. So have a good night. I yield.
Good night, Pam.
Good night.
Yeah. There was a point that I had on my list of things to mention in response to some of the issues you raised there, Michael. If I might.
Okay, sure, man.
I think a lot of your concern about building the numbers and laying a foundation to where we can eventually talk about enforcement. I think your picture of the chessboard might be enhanced if I think you're doing real good at applying the principles that I'm talking about, common law principles, in a right-wing Christian Republican type of environment. But I think you're missing in your strategy model game plan how these principles might work through a left-wing socialist tree hugger type environment. Would that be a worthy line of exploration?
Okay, ask that again. I want to make sure I get a clear understanding of what you're asking.
It's a proposition. It's not a question.
Yeah, repeat it again.
Right. I think that your visualization of how to build this movement is like sequestered in a right-wing conservative Christian community. You think that's 100% of the foundation from which we have to build? And
no, not at all. But I believe that the most valuable input will come from that segment of the population.
Okay, well, if I might perhaps choose my words a little bit better, I think your optimism might be enhanced if you spent time thinking about how these common law principles might be used to recruit from the community of left-wing activists such as BLM and Antifa that are not totally sold out to George Soros, but are that just caught up in the hype, like I rather presume Lewis is.
Oh, I already have done that. That's exactly why I joined the Occupy Wall Street movement clear back in 08 and 09. I joined it for that very purpose, to investigate their thinking, their psyche, and I was able to see clearly how these people could be persuaded of common law, Christian, constitutional principles. When you love your neighbor as yourself, you can't go wrong. And while I was among those people at the largest university in America, Ohio State University, I was able to infiltrate the movement and make friends and persuade, and people listened. And I didn't sway the whole group, but in a very short period of time, I was able to persuade them of our way of thinking, consensus building, fairness, constitutional, common law principles. They were able to digest that and comprehend it and accept it. So I've been there, done that, man. How you?
Well, thank you. I dare suggest that currently it seems like you're a little bit disillusioned, perhaps, if that's not too strong a word, that we're not building enough numbers fast enough. I dare say that. Pardon me?
That's not accurate. I'm not disillusioned with you or your group for that reason. I'm disillusioned for the conversation that took place tonight for 2 hours that went in circles. That, sure, we talked about some interesting stuff. Intelligence was shared. Thoughts were, conveyed and learned. But we went down rabbit holes. We talked about history. We showed each other how smart each of us is on different topics. But
good choice of words. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like certain ones like to do that, and none of those.
I do think Dallas he does enjoy the camera and the showtime a little bit.
Yeah, and so does Nikki. Rick, what's her name? Nikki or Vicky?
Nikki, yeah, Nikki.
Is it Nikki? Okay, yeah. And she does the same thing. She, I one time showed her how after she got done talking for 10 minutes, I made her point in 10 seconds, and she laughed and agreed. Oh yeah, you did that much better than I did.
Yeah,
it's these people just want to hear themselves talk, and
yeah.
We need to get beyond that.
Can I build on that real quick while I'm inspired?
Yeah. Please.
This gets to the ancient common law model had royalty and nobility. And the royalty and the nobility in the pure common law society didn't put up with that ego-centered indulgences. It would cut people off at the knees and say, sit down and shut up. We only need town constables or precinct captains or higher talk in here. Commoners don't talk in this forum. You're too dumb to have the microphone. Sit down and be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's part of the beauty of the hierarchy of the 144,000. The inner circle of 12 there, they know how to maintain focus on the issue of priority that is concerned to the survival of the entire kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is discipline in God's kingdom. There is discipline in God's kingdom. And if you cannot carry on a conversation in an intellectually disciplined manner, then you need to gravitate on down to a lower level in the hierarchy with the other people that are similarly at a level of undisciplined but somewhat enlightened refinement. And you work out a consensus with other people at your level. The people that are at higher level, they're involved in the more serious discussions than you're capable of participating in at this time and place, sir. That's how the conversation would go.
Yeah,
that's how a common law monarch would talk to people.
Right, but in today's society, when you talk like that, or when you try to achieve that goal, you're a bad person. You're mean. You're insensitive.
Well, guess what? The vaccination needles are coming at us, and we no longer have the that's a left-wing attitude where we got to treat everybody equal and nice, and we got to let even the stupidest person have their say. Fine.
Everybody has to be a winner.
Yeah,
but shouldn't everybody get a trophy though?
What?
Shouldn't everybody get a trophy though?
I got no idea what you're talking about.
Everybody's got to be a winner.
Everybody gets a trophy.
A trophy? Oh, you're talking about a trophy. Okay, I didn't hear your word trophy. Sorry.
Little bit of levity. Levity
usually screws my brain flat.
I know. I guess I'm not up in your echelon there. I guess I should be down at the lower level.
Levity and sarcasm frequently disrupt serious thought.
But it can also enhance it. So.
Well, no doubt. But for the record, in this particular instance, it just screwed up my train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's. I'm not dumping on you, but if you could enunciate clearly and more slowly words like trophy, that's part of what threw me. I didn't even comprehend your words, and I don't mean to raise.
It could have something to do with this technology.
I can hear Michael fine. Michael talks nice and slow and clear. You frequently talk fast, Dave. You throw out your zingers and then you laugh, and I don't even comprehend your words.
All righty then. I'll remember that.
Thank you,
Dave. Your volume is a little bit low, though. I must admit, it was kind of hard for me to understand you too. Do you have?
I'm on my cell phone. Normally, people tell me to tone it down when I'm on my cell.
Huh. Yeah, it just seems kind of distant.
Yeah, isn't that strange? Because you're coming through clearer, louder on my cell than you were on my landline, but on this phone usually. Yeah, I'm on speaker, and I think I'm on speaker here. But, and the phone's like 3 inches, 4 inches from my mouth, so.
Huh. Have you guys seen, changing the subject for a second, have you seen how many people in the Trump administration around him have got COVID now?
I didn't see that, but in my view, it's all bullshit because there is no COVID test. And I don't know if Trump is that stupid that they're actually testing him every freaking day. Is that real? Is this a psyop? Is it a psyop on him and us? Or I'm just stating what's being reported. I'm not. No, I can appreciate that. That's what I'm asking. No, it is. What is it? Obviously, I don't believe it for a second that he's got COVID. Is he walking dead now? Are they going to kill him at the Walter Reed Hospital?
No, he's making videos. He claims he's feeling good enough to walk out now, and. But he's always been saying that he felt fine, and they haven't ever said that he's got a sickness, or they just say he's got COVID. He's tested positive.
Yeah. What does that mean? Right? Is that a false positive?
Well, now I'm reading on the screen here. Eric Trump says his dad it was hit very hard in the opening days by the COVID.
What?
So
what do we believe?
I know.
And Biden didn't get it. Did Biden give it to him? Did somebody give him something at that debate? Chris Wallace? What?
May I?
Yeah,
go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that they did come out and announce that he is very obese, and he's way overweight. And he's not as healthy as he might suggest or people will believe. they will just about. There's people that I call them, his cronies or whatever you want to call them. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter what the results are. Everything is wonderful because Donald Trump said it. And we're always looking for heroes. This is the way life is surrounded. I worked in the health, and I know, Dave, you worked in the health. And sometimes these people who delve out help, they're given more credit than they should be. And they exaggerate things. And I think that Trump is one of these people who has lived off exaggerations. He's phonied up his taxes. He's phonied up the income. He's filed bankruptcies. He's a slick dude, is what he really is, and that's the way I see him. That's my opinion. He's very slick. And when he was, and he's stupid too. When he wrote out a check for $47,000 for the service of a prostitute, and he's running for the president of the United States, that goes to show you what kind of morals we really have. In my days, my grandfather, who raised me, and grandmother, he'd have never got to first base. Just on that alone, because they didn't believe in prostitution. It was a standard product of all the churches that were around. The preachers all preached the same kind of a message here and there at times, and that's just the way it turned out. And people seem to like what he laid his views out. They like what Roosevelt did. But if you don't believe you're living on Roosevelt's time now, well, just look what he did. He got the people to voluntarily take in their silver and gold coins and change them for a piece of paper. Now, if that isn't stupid, if that isn't stupidity at the highest degree, I don't know what is.
It was coerced. It wasn't voluntary. They were threatened with jail if they didn't turn in.
But they more or less, it's like the military. They made it more like you're doing the country a favor. Who have you got to fear? Fear itself. On with his BS and bullshit. And you see, and the people believe that. What you need to do, and this is,
everybody did not turn in their gold, though. Everybody didn't turn in their gold and silver.
Oh, I understand that, Dave. But in a percent, and now it's at $1,900 an ounce or some damn thing. How many people are buying gold coins? Only the very elite can buy them.
Well, if I may,
you got any money?
Yeah,
all up in the clouds.
I don't know anybody that's buying, but I got to tell you, try to buy it, and they tell you that they don't have any. The dealers don't have it.
That's why they're grabbing all those copper coins. They're going to cover them.
Yeah, but see, this stick to the subject. Let's stick to the point. Just talk about Roosevelt and Trump. Let's keep on them. And as you keep notifying things that they do, and they did, and on it goes. And along with it, their cohorts. You see, then you start to uncover things. We always get off track somewhere. I'm famous for doing that, and I take blame for it too. But the real issue is, who is Trump? Who really is he? That's the issue. And we sit down in a think tank, and we get a whole, it's very small nowadays, and we got some people, they're not afraid to say anything in front of anybody, because we taught each other not to be critical. You say what you want to say, and you say it, in a fashion that's presentable. You don't have to use foul language every other word, but put it in an issue where your 6-year-old daughter could hear the conversation. That's what we put it out that way. You don't get big, tough, and strong, and you're going to do all these things so. But we have to put it in an issue. And when you look at these guys through a fine screen of color, they're fakes. They're all fakes. Where did he get all his wealth from? And look at what he does. He wears a beanie. He's the one. He went over to Israel, and he changed the capital of the country of Israel. I thought he was president of the United States. What the hell is he doing in Israel? No one asked the question. Okay, and you dare bring up anything about Scripture today, and people would like to stuff you down a coal shaft if they could. It's really a tough life, especially if you're looking for the truth. I yield.
Well, I think if Roosevelt was in power today and he did an order like Roosevelt did to make it illegal for people to own gold and silver and threaten people with arrest if they didn't turn in their gold and silver, an arrest warrant should have been issued then and there against Roosevelt. Anybody agree, disagree with that proposition?
I agree with you.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
See, we need to be in a position when the vaccine, the forcible vaccine thing is a potential similar scenario where Michael, you've talked before about pulling the trigger. We need to be in position, like Bruce Lee, the way of the intercepting fist, when we can see them moving against us to forcibly vaccinate us or to take away our gold and silver by force or take away our guns by force. When they begin moving in that clear and present danger type manner against us, we need to have our peace officers already lined up and ready to go, deputized badges, and ready to go to execute our arrest warrants against that chief criminal executive officer. Are you?
This is Gary Dunn, and I agree with what you're saying. I don't know if you're in the military or not, but I was in the military in 1958 to 1960, and I was in a Strike One outfit for 21 months. And that's like being under martial law all the time. It's even worse than martial law. But the problem is, I've had people call and ask me, well, what about this here, and what about that? When it comes to the guns, I'm very critical of it, and I'll tell you why. Somebody says, well, how long do you think it'd take them to collect all the guns in this country? I says, anywhere from 24 to 36 hours. And they think I'm nuts. Oh, you believe I better believe I believe in guns. Are you silly? But you don't know how fast these Strike One outfits can move. And the intellect of who they are. I'm a whole different person now, body, soul, and mind, and physical, and every way I could be, versus the day I spent in the military. And when the military works on orders, they don't work on common sense. You just obey an order, and they take you out. This is we're in a serious mode. Don't anybody fool you. When they're ready to take these guns, they're going to pick them up. People say, oh, Gary, you're full of bullshit. Well, I was in the military, and I can tell you how quick they could pick them up. And the method they're going to use is going to shock the hell out of people. Well, what are some of the methods? Okay? Well, how about you don't have any power for about 30 days?
I hear you, Gary. You're shedding valuable light.
I have to, because this idea that because we can get on the phone and we can chat about it is not real. The reality is they've got foreign troops in this country by the thousands that are loyal to the generals. You know, like I say, find yourself a good general. I know about generals. I was underneath them, way far underneath them. And I know how they operate, some of their thought patterns. We had a one-star general over us all the time. Somebody had to be there. And I read their orders. Once I got hurt, and they put me in an orderly room to work. I did court martials even and all that thing. I learned to do all that stuff. I learned how to type even. On my way out of the military. It's a dangerous system. Who controls the military? For sure. Tell me. Anybody out here? We've got a pretty good, knowledgeable crowd here. Who controls the military? Tell me. I don't know. I'm going to tell you right up front.
I would suggest that we need to embrace a game plan wherein when tyrannical executive orders are given, there will be splits. There will be dissenting people in the military that will jump over and try to help the people. But we need to be in position to give those dissenting military people and CIA people and DOJ people and FBI agents, we need to be in positions to give them safe houses. We could be organizing safe houses right now.
Were you in the military, sir?
Not the municipal federal government's military. No, never.
No, okay. All right, well, I was. Okay. And I disagree.
Can you explain why you disagree?
Because you do what you're told or you get it done to you. Let me give you an example. This is just a simple example. I don't want to get into every little detail, but if you're guarding prisoners, okay, and a prisoner to escape under your watch, okay, they may have them out cutting grass with scissors or something, all kinds of things they do to prisoners, and then they take off. You get to serve the rest of his time, whatever it is. They take you right over the guard shack, they lock your ass up, and you spend the time as a prisoner just because you lost one or two. And they may give you a detail of 12. Pretty hard to keep track of them. And would you be willing to shoot one of your people that are prisoners? Would you pull up your M1, N2, or your Grey and shoot one of them? I found that very hard to do. If you never had that duty, you'll never know the response. It's very difficult because there's some pretty hardened guys. They've been in the brig for a number of weeks, years, and some have been at Fort Leavenworth, and that's not a real nice place to go. They show you pictures of Fort Leavenworth. So you know what you're facing if you get sent there. They warn everybody. They keep track.
If we might,
go ahead.
With all due respect, Gary, if we might pass the microphone back and forth more quickly instead of each of us taking long time periods to tell a big long scenario, then we can probably make more progress in consensus building. And I dare suggest your illustration here is not responsive to the issue. Sure, there are lots of military people that are deathly afraid to the point of trauma-based mind control, where they are blind, obedient robots. But we've got numerous splendid examples of military people that have stood up and broken away from the evil empire. Yeah, you don't. Do I need to pull out examples? Do you deny that?
I don't know. I don't know what you're saying is fact or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe I should try to pull out examples. Would people that have been in like the CIA, like Edward Snowden or Julian Assange or other people that are in CIA qualify? They've stood up and spoke out. Isn't that an example of a good quasi-military type individual standing up and speaking out?
What they speak out about?
You don't know what Julian Assange and Edward Snowden have spoke out about? I got to refresh that with you.
I say I don't recollect. No.
Jeez.
I don't follow too much of that stuff anyhow, but I recognize the name Snowden. Yeah.
Well, what about Smedley Butler?
I don't know anything about him.
You don't know Smedley Butler?
No.
He wrote the book War is Iraq.
No, I believe we all been snowed in. Gary Dunn, I've got to tell you, I'd love to just sit with you and your wife and hang out for about 6 days and listen to all your stories.
Well,
I would. Yes, you have a great mind. I just got to say that.
Well, just so everybody knows this on the call, I'm a very simple man, Pam. I've told you that before. I don't have any hobbies that I do. The only thing I've cut it back to calls, because some of them are totally ridiculous. But the Patriot calls, I've done that. But I'm a student of the Bible, and there's a lot more I don't know than I do know. And I've been a student for a number of years, under teaching and everything, and basically then in the organic farming. And if you get away from these subjects, I don't know a lot. And I don't pay a lot of attention to a lot of stuff that happens in Washington, and maybe I should pay a little more attention, but I just don't. My whole life is around the organic farm, which we got a few acres in it, and I don't farm anymore. I help the guy that does rent it. Okay, and so I'm not a wide. I don't get involved in real wide conversations because I don't have that background. But I do know a lot about the military. I was there. Okay.
I respect you. I respect all these guys on the call. But
oh yeah,
Mr. Stewart, he's kind of mean sometimes.
I don't. When people disagree with me, you have never heard me retaliate. You know that. I don't do it. I've disagreed with your husband about something. That doesn't make us enemies. Okay. In fact, I welcome somebody who will question what's going on. That's how I learn. I don't have all the facilities. I have a lot of books, that I've read over the years, and I always ask people, have you read the Protocols of Learned Elders of Zion? Have you read that book? And if they haven't read that book, I know they don't know a lot about Jews. And if they haven't read the Bible, they sure know less. And the Bible is straightforward about it, okay? The Holy Scriptures. So.
Hey, Gary.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Smedley Butler, he's the 2-star Marine general that took on Dole Pineapple Company down in South America, and he wrote the book War is a Racket. And they wanted him to run for president or take over the country with a coup, and they offered him the El Presidente-ship, and he said, no way. You know that guy, don't you? Smedley Butler?
Yeah, I recollect the history of the whole thing. If you wanted to get in details, I did something in the military that most privates I got to be an SB4, special fourth class. That's high as I got. That was especially thing. It was like being a corporal, the 2 stripes. But I got that far in a couple of years I was in. But I did some things that had I not had my stepfather didn't have friends in Washington D.C., I would be in the brig yet. I would not ever got out. And if you understood the PXs and all the stuff that was put upon the military people, where you shop and do all the things. These are all owned by military families.
Well, again, Smedley Butler said war is a racket.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
absolutely.
It is.
And all wars are bankers' wars.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Who do you think promotes them? The generals. I was there, Dave. I saw it.
I know.
And then if you talk to Santa Claus, you really get an overview of it.
2/3 of the Congress have dual Israeli citizenship.
Exactly. How do you trust that?
You can't.
You can't. It's sad. It really is.
Yeah, it surely is.
Well, they're very good at this media brainwashing, and we just have to educate the children that they are being brainwashed by what they want, and they're showing us how, the little stories are actual, videos of what's going on in people's families and how they create it with the stress and what's going to happen to the next generation unless. Yeah. And this comes from a lady that I met on one of these calls a long time ago. She says, you teach your children what you did not learn.
Well, we know who's in control when, a $20 bill that came out was released in 2003 can be folded in a way that Hamilton's wearing, or Jackson is wearing a mask. His head is upside down, and it says 2020.
Isn't that something?
Yep. And the $1 bill, the 5, the 10, and the 20 can all be folded the same way, like the front of an airplane. And in each one, the twin towers are right there, and they're tipping over in succession from the 1 to the 20.
That's unreal.
And those bills were all made before 2001. They were the 100 was redone in 96, the 50 in 97, the 20 in 98, the 10 in 99, the 5 in 2000, and the $1 bill in 01. And they released them all in 2003. And you can fold all those bills. The 50 and the 100 are the Pentagon being hit, and the 1 through the 20 is the Twin Towers. And the 20 is dual because it gives you the mask and the 2020. And the movie Soylent Green was made in sometime around 1970 with the guy who was the president of the NRA. Anyway, that movie, in the opening scene, everybody's wearing a mask, and that movie takes place in the year 2021.
Really?
And Soylent Green is people. They were taking all the dead bodies, and they were processing them into food, into these wafers or crackers, and Charlton Heston was the lead actor in the movie, and he figured out. And there's one of the most famous lines in the movie is he yells out, "Soylent Green is people." And
what did he do?
He yelled out, "Soylent Green is people." Charlton Heston was the lead actor in that movie, Soylent Green.
Yeah.
And today there is a company, and I had Carrie Lund look it up in Utah, called Soylent, and they process food products. And the name of the company is Soylent. And they're in Utah. And Carrie looked it up and he verified it. I heard it on a radio show, and I mentioned it on that Utah assembly call. And Carrie looked it up, and sure enough,
what do they call it? What do you call it again?
The name of the company is Soylent, just like the movie Soylent Green.
Oh.
Yep.
So I don't follow movies. I know one movie person.
I know. That movie came out like in the either 1969, 1970, 71, 72, right around that time. And it depicted the year 2021, and everybody's wearing a mask in the opening scene.
Golly.
So is that a future history lesson?
Well, just look. I was going to mention that. Just look what they've done with a few of those general requests. What do you think they held Trump up for to get your guns? They're not going to pick your guns up right away or mine that quickly. But what am I going to do if they come here? Tell me. My wife and I are going to fight out with them. Some 18 or 20-year-old military guy, 22, 24, trained every day, run 10 miles a day, and if they come here, what am I going to do? Tell me.
I'm not sure what you're going to do.
We'll come and help you.
There you go. Thank you.
Well, that's where we need Charles's, communities.
Yeah, your township community would address that. That's why we need to be organizing our common law township communities and precincts.
Well, I agree, 100%. How do you advertise that, though?
Well, I got the documents on the web pages that say how to do it. We're doing conferences with some video on them and stuff, and it would be nice if we could have jury verdicts behind the coronavirus thing, declaring it up front to be a lie. That enhances our legal position to resort to force to resist the forcible vaccinations that are going to be coming at us. But if they start doing the forcible vaccines when we haven't even declared it's a fraud by a formal jury verdict, then we're in a really, really weak legal position.
Right.
This is why our paperwork is more important than our guns, really.
Well, somebody said the pen is mightier than the sword.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that is key to priming the pump to getting this whole thing started is articulated in the agenda, the number 2, I think, that asking people that are appearing in our conference to affirm that they have read the oath of office of the qualified elector document as web-linked in the invitation, and that they affirm that they are willing to assume the duties of a qualified elector. And I'm pretty sure Michael has done this, and I know I have done it. I've done it on signature in the paper document, but I'm not clear if any of Gary or David or it's traditionally been men, but even we can open it up to women if Pam wants to do it too. That would be good. But I would like to ask you guys if you've read the document, and if you had, if you're willing to affirm that you're willing to assume the duties of a qualified elector.
Well, I haven't personally read it.
It's just a two-page document.
Where do you find it?
It's web-linked in the conference invitation. Try to get over there and look at it, maybe next Saturday. By then, you can have it looked at, and you can verbally affirm that you're willing to assume the duties of a qualified elector. And that does address the issue that we've been touching on, point of contention a little bit here, about being available to assist your town constable if and when it is necessary for him to have assistance in making arrests. See, that is part of the duties of being a qualified elector, is you're on call. You're part of posse comitatus for the whole county when there's lawful enforcement issues and keeping the peace. So it's all spelled out. It's a two-page document. It's a pretty quick read, but it does contain some powerful propositions that will cause your mind to think about some really serious issues. And because it's throwing the gauntlet down about whether or not you're going to be part of the organic body politic, or if you're just going to kind of wait and trust that Jesus is going to come on a cloud and save you here.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that's going to happen, but...
Well, it would be nice. I don't exclude it from the picture. But I do believe that Jesus does want us to prepare to take up arms against these devil worshippers.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, the tyranny is obedience to God.
There we go. There we go. There's no other manner. And I like what the Muslims say. The Muslims got a word about jihad. They say, when you die in a holy war, you go straight to heaven. If you're on the right side in a holy war and you die, you go straight to heaven. There's no limbo. There's no wait around. Boom, straight. If you're standing up and speaking out God's holy truth and justice, and you die, you go straight to heaven.
Yeah.
I really like those kind of ideas.
If you're on the right side of the holy.
Is that another joke, Dave, or am I missing something?
Well, no. I'm being serious. If you're on the right side of the holy, I don't believe the Muslims are on the right side of the holy.
Well, certainly that's a point of contention, and Muslims are like Christians. There's a lot of professed Christians that are not on the right side of the holy. Would you agree with that?
I agree. Oh,
okay, well, then there's not a dime's worth of difference between Christians and Muslims.
Well, I don't know if we're worshiping the same God. I think there's a big difference between me and you and the Muslims that are following the Quran. That tells them that they're allowed to lie to infidels, and anybody that doesn't follow Allah is an infidel. And they got a lot of crazy laws, and although the Catholics, anyway, we can go into a whole nother.
I was thinking, how long are you going to go here, Dave?
All right. Well, one hole leads to another.
Yeah. I'm glad we're similar in spirit there.
Yeah. So I do believe I'm somewhat briefly familiar with what a qualified elector is, and I do believe I am one of those people. I do believe that, what I've learned about the status of a qualified elector, it was property owners, because they are more, they're less transient in their communities or their townships than non-landowners are. But, I know we're living in a lot different times, and I know that those bankers have stolen a lot of landowners' land.
The pivotal issue in qualified elector status was the honor of your character and reputation in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Land was a footnote, and back in those times where land was to some degree, I think it was legitimate common law requirement, but that was in an era where there was squatters' rights.
Right.
You know, the land wasn't all controlled by bankers and municipal governments. There was lots of vacant land, and anybody could squat on some land and build a little hut, and at that point, they were the landowner of that piece of land.
Right. And they worked the land and they made improvements. And
yeah, and at that point, you're a stable person in the community. You got a good reputation. Boom, you're in.
Well,
and what they said on the call the other day, if you made any sort of changes to your property, you owned it. This house didn't even have some trees on it. He moved on it.
Well, that's what I said. Improvement. If you make improvements to the land, you know, you're pretty much going to stay.
May I a minute? May I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question because you brought up a good point there. If I was an elector, and I didn't believe in prostitution, and then I was asked to cast my vote for Trump, and I would refuse. Okay, what would happen then?
They'd probably all be forced inoculated. With mercury, arsenic, and whatever else they want to throw in there. But it's your
is this a serious question, or are we just having fun?
No, I have a serious question.
All right, well, it'd be nice if everybody participating in the discussion would treat it seriously.
Okay. Well, I'm an elector, and because I don't believe in prostitution, and we know what the president done, self-admitted, he wrote the check out.
Wait a minute, Gary. Did you see that check? And you heard him say that he had relations with that prostitute?
They showed the check on TV.
That doesn't mean anything, Gary. That could. This is known liars where you saw something on television, and who showed it?
Well, let's just say let's just say it's real just for now. Okay. We don't care if it's Trump or who it is. The guy, the person that's running, commits prostitution and adultery on his wife. I could not vote for a person like that. Okay, so would I have to vote for him?
No, if he admitted it and you didn't, feel right about it, no, you don't have to vote for anybody. A qualified elector is not going to vote for a lesser of two evils.
I think we'd have to have a lot of research.
See, because everybody said, well, just think if you hadn't got Trump, you'd have got Hillary. Well, I wouldn't vote for her either.
The electors are not constrained to either of the two nominees of the Democratic and Republican Party. They can vote for Michael Zarzano or anybody they want.
Okay. Or they could abstain.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to know what the oath said.
None of the
above. And further, electors are organized in a hierarchy. The electors at the county level are the precinct captains. The electors at the precinct level are the town constables. The electors at the township level are the qualified electors at the grassroots heads of household. So, and if those offices are vacant, certainly you would gravitate up to either your state level electors for the presidential election. If you're inclined to do so. So you don't have to do that, but certainly if the offices are vacant as they're coming together here in what we're talking about, it would be good if we could mount a campaign to affect this election and put somebody else in that presidential office, or at least make a strong legal claim for that alternative choice besides either controlled opposition Biden or Trump. That would be the ideal solution for what we're looking at here, because they're both moral prostitutes. I think we all agree. I yield.
Did Michael leave?
No, I'm here. I'm just listening, I'm about ready to call it an evening, I think. I'm getting tired.
I'm kind of thinking maybe. Well, I can hang for a while here. If Dave and Gary, do you feel like we're accomplishing much, or should we think about winding it up here?
No, I think it's very interesting when someone talks about elector. I don't have a clue, and I know about it, but I don't know how many facts to go on what elector does, what they do, and if they have electors here evidently because Michigan give their electoral vote to Trump, and so did Wisconsin, and he lost in both the popular vote, I think in both states.
Mm-hmm.
But he got the electoral vote.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
If I may.
Go ahead.
So, the other day I think somebody said something about talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. Was anybody on that call that said they kind of changed it instead of saying I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America?
Pam, can you speak up a little bit?
So they said one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But they changed up a couple of the words and they said something else. Does anybody remember what that was? You guys on the call?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, maybe you weren't on that call. Okay,
well, Gary, was there other issues with the qualified electors that?
No, but I've never seen a copy of what you're talking about. So,
okay, do you have the email, the invitation email to the conference?
I don't have email.
Okay. Well, how can we get this document to you?
I'm not sure.
Sounds like somebody'd have to print it out and postal mail it to you.
Yeah.
That would be delegated to somebody of leadership position authority in your same state or super state there around Michigan, which would definitely include Dave. If we want to nominate Dave for de jure governor of the state of Michigan, then he can assume the duties of printing it out and mailing it to all of his potential qualified electors, which would include you.
Actually, if I may, Darren Smith is actually the elected governor of the de jure elected governor of Michigan. Interim.
He's pretty far away, though.
Well, do they, Dave, excuse me, may I?
Yeah.
Does he sit in the capacity as governor?
No, he is the interim governor. They don't call it governor. I can't remember what they call it, but he was elected by the Michigan Assembly to be interim. Anyway, he's pretty much the head of the Michigan Assembly, which is the de jure government of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And do they recognize that, the state people?
What, the de facto?
Yeah, do they recognize it?
Hell no.
Okay.
No, they don't.
Well, I'm not being stupid here. I just don't know.
I don't believe they've actually. They may have noticed them. I really don't know how all that works. I haven't been to a physical meeting yet. I was invited to that one, but it was down by Indiana, and we had a couple vehicles.
Well, they take hours. They take hours and hours on the phone calls, and they don't tell you shit. That's why I said I've been on these phone calls back in the old militia days and everything else, and you don't know nothing about nothing. It's all talk. you want to know what the hell right you have, or what you do, or what you can do. And it can't be BS. It's got to be some kind of factual document you're talking about. This is the biggest problem I have with everything, Dave, out here. Well, we do this and we do it that way, and well, what's the results? If I farmed the way they do things over the years, we wouldn't have a farm here. We wouldn't have one. You just do it. You do what you want to do when you want to do it. That doesn't matter what the rules and regulations say, or anything. It's water holding capacity doesn't mean nothing. You don't throw that away. And this is where we're at. They got all this time to talk about all the other things. Why don't they say, okay, if you want to be electro thinking, just as Charles said, you have to agree to take it. Then you have to know, okay, what do you have to do to notify the de facto that you are a lawful representative, okay, or to represent to vote. This is what I'm saying. It's all ignored. And when you ask, they say, "Oh, he's just a stupid ass. Oh, he has no bother thing." Well, I don't say I'm not a stupid ass, but the people that are the stupid asses, the people are trying to get stuff done, and they don't tell you how to do it. Okay.
Well, Gary, if I may, Michigan has an assembly call on Thursday night, an hour before the national call at 8 p.m., and then I think every other Saturday morning at 8:30. And, you haven't been on those calls, and they really don't talk about all the stuff that goes on those calls, but they do have educational calls, and they have business calls, and then they have physical calls or physical meetings. And they did have an election back in the summer. And that was a physical meeting back in around Menden, somewhere by Menden, down in the southwest corner of the state. But I can share the phone number to the Michigan Assembly with you if you want to get on that call.
Well, I'm not in a position to write it down now, but
yeah,
okay.
I won't. I can give it to you at whenever you're ready. But
yeah,
you could get on that call as a guest.
I've been to the Michigan Assembly years and years ago when Roger was there.
Yeah, back around 2010, 11, they had 300-400 people showing up in Perry.
Well, I didn't see that many, but
I know people. I know people that are founding members that are still involved, and they told me about 400 people at meetings in Perry, where they
never
meet
seen
all
that
the
many.
time.
I never saw that many.
Well, just because you didn't see them doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Did you see it, Dave?
Well, like I say,
I did.
One of my special fellows that I sold him organic fertilizer, okay, and he was that day that I went he gave me a call, and he was running the whole meeting, okay, and the meeting contained of nothing, just nothing. There was no information brought forward, nothing. And Roger was there, and his wife. She give pretty good information.
You mean Robert?
Yeah, Robert. I mean, yeah. He was a master sergeant from the Army.
He was a Navy SEAL.
Roger?
Robert Gilman.
No, he was a master sergeant in the Army. Master sergeant.
Well, I was told he was a Navy SEAL.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
His wife was also a sergeant.
She was also what?
A sergeant in the Army.
Oh, was she? She was a lot younger than him, too.
I don't know that. But
She died awful young. You talking about Marilyn?
I can't remember her first name, Dave.
Well, the gal that I met, her name was Marilyn, and she was about 54 years old, and he was 70-something, and she died of, I think she had pancreatic cancer. Died a few years before he did. And he died he was around 74 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
74, 75, 76, I can't remember.
Yeah, and then I go back to the days when they had that Baptist preacher that had the Michigan militia. Boy, what a joke that was.
Can I jump in, fellas, gentlemen, ladies? I think kind of a summary of the main points of the last 5 minutes or so. Gary was asking for information about what kind of progress is being made with the National Assembly group that's led by such men as Roger Dodell in Florida and Destry out of Alaska and Paul in Michigan. Isn't that pretty accurate, quick, dirty summary of what's going on here, right?
I've listened to them. I don't get anything out of it, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. And I would dare say your instincts there are correct. And with all due respect to Dave, and a lot of other good people that are involved in that group on a regular basis, it's my humble opinion, and I believe I speak for Michael also, that they're largely they're not serving the interests of our American people. They've got their own narrow-minded way of looking things, and they're not open to constructive criticism. See, there's supposed to be open discussion in the assembly, like what we're doing here, so that the merits of all the issues of all of the participants in the discussion can rise to the top based upon logical, reasonable discussion. They don't do that in their conferences. They keep a military, top-down authoritarian Roman Empire model of control on the discussion. That's not organic grassroots bottom-up. That's top-down authoritarian. And to be fair, Anna von Reitz does that. John Daresh does that. Keith Livingway does that. Almost all other groups do it. That top-down authoritarian Roman Empire military way of assembling people. And so just to quick, the main point that I was trying to make here is that, Dave, I recognize your good intent in trying to encourage Gary to invest time and energy in that National Assembly group that's led by Paul and Destry and Roger. But with all due respect, I think Gary he's got a few miles on him, and his time and energy is very precious. And it's largely, in my humble opinion, a big, ugly waste of time going into those conferences. I don't think they're accomplishing nothing, and they're liable to continue that way for a long time into the future. And the only reason I frequently attend them is usually for the after call, because there is usually some open discussion in the after call where we can talk with people like y'all, Dave, and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say that, and Gary, stick to your guns, my humble suggestion. And Dave, I'm sure Gary appreciates your suggestion, as do I, but I with all due respect, I think you're not properly comprehending the futility of what is being engineered there. I suspect it's a COINTELPRO operation, just another different version of Anna von Reitz and Keith Livingway and John Daresh and all those other goofballs. But I admit they're a little bit better than a lot of the others. Anyway, I'll shut up there. Dave, if you want to respond, I'd appreciate that, or Gary, or either of you, I guess. Small group here. I yield. Was I talking too fast?
No, I'll respond. I had to unmute. but I was not involved with John Duresh. I know I know of him, and I know that all those groups spun out of that NLA, and they were all together at, in a couple of different groups. After they spun off of NLA, they were together, and then Keith spun off in his own group, and I was on some of those calls, but I didn't see that going anywhere. And I got involved with the Colorado guys, and I thought they were enamored by Anna, and she sent them to prison, in my view, because she guided them in everything they did. And then after they went to prison, she said she told them not to do what they did, so she's a liar.
Yeah.
And I was on your calls a few years ago before you kind of dropped off the map, and I didn't see a lot of progress. I liked what I was hearing, but there wasn't a lot of movement. There wasn't a lot of people weren't catching on, and there weren't a lot of people on the calls that I was on. And then you kind of showed back up on the national call, or on the Colorado call, or you'd pop in on both. And I don't necessarily believe in the leadership 100%, but I do believe in the assembly, and I don't think there's any other way, because we're not going to write a new Constitution. I believe in our Constitution, and I don't believe it's for us. It's for the government. It's to bind the hands of the government and keep them from, but we the people are the ones that are supposed to keep them from becoming tyrannical. And
wait. Are you saying that you believe in the 1787-89 document that Hamilton and Washington and Franklin engineered?
Hamilton and Washington didn't write that.
He was involved in the convention.
Well,
he was in the Philadelphia Convention.
In the Constitution, I believe the Constitution was written organically. I believe that I don't see anything better out there, and I don't believe that there's enough of us working together to do anything differently. And yeah, I do believe in that document. I don't see anything in it that is going to hurt us. It's not perfect, obviously, but and with the Bill of Rights, and that's not all of our rights, but
they were attached on as an afterthought. The main body of the document, if I might, Dave, the main body of the document formed a municipal, civil Roman Empire model of government, which was in stark contrast to the general common law model of government that was the Articles of Confederation. Are you aware of that?
I didn't read it. The Articles of Confederation, I've never read them.
But you don't have to read them to know the essential principles and the summary of what's going on there.
Common law, and I know that, my rights end where yours begin. And
but that's irrelevant to which model of document we're under here. And you're supporting a step down towards tyranny and despotism when you say that the Constitution document was a good thing when it usurped the authority of the Articles of Confederation.
So what's your plan?
To establish common law model of government similar to the Articles of Confederation.
Okay. And so I've been on your call, I don't know, how long you been doing this call, this Saturday call?
You've made this argument before, and it regularly pisses me off.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you piss me off too, brother. So
well,
I'm going to tell you, you got 7 people. You got 7 people on your call, and I don't see you getting any headway. There's a hell of a lot more than 7 people on the call, the other calls that I get on.
Well, you go ahead and continue wasting your time with Destry and Paul and Roger, and maybe we'll come together later on when the revolution really starts. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
How are you going to start a revolution with 7 people?
You don't get it. You don't get it. They're coming at us with the vaccine needles. We're either going to fight or we're going to die.
Believe me, I get it.
Well, then how come you're criticizing me for gearing for the big game?
What?
You're criticizing me because I'm gearing for the big game.
How am I criticizing you? And
you're just telling me that I piss you off.
What's your idea for bringing more people to this call?
I'm hosting the damn call. I'm doing as best I can with what I got.
And so am I.
No, you're not. You're goofing around with Destry and Paul and Roger.
Oh, what are you doing
to go over there and waste his time with them?
What are you doing with them? You're on every fucking call that I get on. What the hell are you talking about?
I missed the last one.
Oh, geez, you missed the last one. Because you're so busy.
Yeah, I had better things to do.
Man.
I frequently miss them.
Yeah, and what are you doing to promote your call? How are we getting more than 7 people on your call? And that ain't criticism. It's a legitimate question because I want to move forward. Whether it's with Roger and Destry, I hear a lot of great stuff coming from those men. And you know what? I'm on your call. So I hear some great stuff coming from you. But they gather more people than you do. How are you going to change that?
Well,
you going to insult me?
I appreciate you throwing me a bone there, Dave, and I don't mean to raise my voice to you. And I'm doing as best I can with what I got. I survive off of a $1,200 a month Social Security check, and I pay $100 a month in a junky house I live in. I'm doing as best I can with what I got.
And I'm sorry that I said that you were being mean earlier.
Well, I do get a little bit cranky. I'm concerned about the survival of our nation, and it frustrates me when I.
That's why we're on your call, because we're also concerned.
All right. Well, I'm sorry we go through these little hiccups once in a while.
Well, that's why they call us men.
No pain, no gain.
Well, because men can't tell other men what to do.
Well,
maybe.
Well, I think in the Christianity model, I like to think if Jesus appeared, I would do what he said, and there is a hierarchy in the common law. The county sheriff can tell the precinct captains what to do, and the precinct captains, justice of the peace, can tell the town constables what to do, and the town constables can tell the qualified electors at the grassroots level what to do. So there are times where men can tell others what to do, but if they're on the same plane as we're all here, then yeah, we can't tell each other what to do.
We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe that men might be able to tell other men what to do, but they can't make up laws for other men to follow. I don't believe in that.
The definition of law there is frequently misinterpreted. True law is common law, which is pre-existing and built on principles, and people don't just make up or say what law is. People find law by harmonizing with the supreme laws of nature and nature's God. You comprehend?
I do.
Okay, well then, it's important to use our words with precision when we're floating these bold propositions here, brother.
Well, I think when I say I'm not going to follow laws that other men make, I don't think I'm not being precise. And I think
other men are not capable of making laws. Your statement is an oxymoron.
Well, you can take it any way you want, but
Well,
men are trying to make laws. They do make laws.
no, they don't.
Laws.
Law comes from God. Men are incapable of making law.
Okay, but this country has a lot of laws been bestowed upon it by men.
Statutes and codes are not laws.
I agree.
How come you're using your vocabulary in loose and sloppy manners, then, sir?
All the laws that they've passed, are not just statutes and codes. They call their codes and statutes codes and statutes. They call the laws laws.
They don't have any laws. The Roman Empire model of government, civil municipal government, is incapable of enacting laws. Again, the laws are not enacted. Laws are found. They come from God. Real law comes from God. All law.
Okay, I can appreciate that, but with only 7 people backing us in that view at this present time, if the group of men that are in control of things right now came against us, we would lose with those 7 people backing us, even though God makes the laws.
Unless they found those laws in the original text.
Well, we are in a spiritual war zone, and I have no intent of getting splattered like a bug on a windshield. And we do need more people. But our time and energy is valuable, and I'm sure, Gary's time and energy is valuable, and I'm glad Gary isn't inclined to waste his time with Destry's conference. And it might not be a total waste of
almost every Thursday.
Pardon me?
Gary's on that call almost every Thursday. He doesn't know about the Michigan call, and that's Destry's in Alaska now, so he's not really on that Michigan call. Although Paul is on it, Paul's not the leader.
I thought you were just trying to give Destry the phone number to call, or I thought you were just now trying to give Gary the phone number to call into that call.
Not the national call. I was trying to give him the call to the Michigan Assembly, not the National Assembly.
Okay,
yeah,
I miscomprehended. I miscomprehended. I apologize.
Yeah, Gary gets on the national, but he's never been on the Michigan since I've been on it. He said he used to go to those meetings, but
right.
That was a long time ago. They haven't had a physical meeting in that Perry location in quite some time.
Yeah. Anna is organizing a Michigan Assembly also?
Yes.
Do you know Lewis Hammond very well?
Lewis on your call tonight?
Yeah.
No, I've only, spoken with him on this call.
Okay. Lewis has had quite a bit of experience with Destry and Paul and Roger and Anna. And it's Lewis's opinion. Pardon me?
I'd like to talk to him about it.
Yeah, I'm sure Lewis would appreciate that.
What's his opinion?
Well, he's had problems with Destry and Paul and Roger in the past. In fact, he's worked with them at the early stages of organizing the National Assembly conferences and the Michigan Assembly, and his testimony is that there was some bad experience there.
Yeah, he mentioned that a few weeks ago on this call. He didn't really give any details, which is fine, but I would like to speak to him privately and find out, whatever he would like to share.
Sure. Yeah.
Is he involved with Anna's assembly?
Pardon me?
Is he involved with Anna's assembly?
No, he doesn't like Anna either. But he said on a sliding scale, he trusts Anna more than he does Destry and Paul and Roger.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm shocked.
I'm not sure he comprehends fully how nasty Anna is. But I have seen some pretty nasty stuff from the other guys. And anyway, I'll let Louis share that with you when you guys get an opportunity. I don't want to spin it my way.
I'd like to do that. I myself haven't had any, personal experiences with any of those gentlemen. Paul's relatively new to my sphere of experience here with the assembly. He just kind of popped up on the national call within, I would say, this year. I never heard of him until he showed up on that. I wasn't getting on the Michigan call until I joined the Michigan Assembly. But Paul was new to me. I don't know how long he's been. I know his dad was a founding member of the Michigan Assembly. I don't think he's around anymore. But he seemed a little full of himself. But I always had good experience with Destry and Roger.
I would admit that all three of those men are eloquent, and they generally retain a fairly respectful tone of voice.
Yep.
Which they are pleasant to talk with, up until the point where that's in private discussion.
Right.
In their public forum, they maintain firm control, and that's where my problems start manifesting, in that there's not allowed any type of organic, spontaneous, but reasonably throttled type of discussion. It's totally throttled and frequently off on issues that are quite irrelevant to promoting the assemblies. I think the recent discussions where they're reading out of that book that seems to have some roots in Mormonism or something, I don't see what that has.
Mormonism? The 5,000-year leap? The book is The 5,000-Year Leap. That's the book about Mormons?
That's what I gleaned from what I caught of the discussions there, yeah.
Okay, I don't know much about the Mormons, but that's news to me.
Well, it did sound like some of the principles were good principles that they're talking about, but why aren't we talking about what we can do to organize the assemblies? They're not talking about that. That's what I think the time and energy and the con.
Well, they've gone there in the past, and they actually have shut down calls because it was going in a different direction. They wanted it to be about, growing the assembly, and that's what it was originally started for. The national call was to teach the states to form assemblies so they could form their counties, and then Anna attacked Destry, and we had 36 states that were forming assemblies and getting on the call every week. And then Anna got in a big fight with Destry. I don't know, she was agreeing with everything the assembly was doing, and then she started, I can't even remember exactly what happened, but the call went down to 14 states because she attacked Destry on Facebook, or and she has a tendency of doing that, airing dirty laundry. She did it to Steve Curry. She did it to Steve Doucette, or Bruce Doucette, and somebody else in that Colorado group. And But yeah, we went down to 14 states, and we, the most we've gained back was about maybe 25, 26, but we're averaging around 20 now, which is the most I've seen out of anybody else's group that I've been on.
Let's have one of our meetings, and then we'll just bring up that. Lost leader.
We don't have enough people in our meetings. I've invited those people on the national call with a little bit of success, but
maybe go like.
Well, that's the next step. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I the biggest thing is recruiting people. Whether it's your group or what I think we need to do is we got to merge all the groups and get past the egos and the petty little fights and arguments, and grow this assembly so we can do the work of the people. What do you think? You there, Charles?
Dave, I couldn't hear you hardly.
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
I hear you now better.
You should have yelled at me and told me to speak up. Well, what I just said, my last statement was we need to get past the egos and the petty little, junior high school fights and join all of these groups so we can make a difference and do the work of the people.
Yeah, Dave, that's a very agreeable thing, but the whole design structure behind everything here is exactly opposite of what you just said. What they want to do, and I go back to the days of Terry Trussell a little bit. I was not a super friend or anything. I just know who Terry Trussell was, and they threw him under the bus. He finally, I think he killed him in prison or something. But
how did they throw him under the bus, Gary?
They don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to him at all. See, and they got him to do the things that they wanted to get done, and then they just let it go. Just like they're talking right now. They're going to be on the thing. They'd like to get you on there, and some other innocent people. And if it don't go good, well, then you'll go to jail. Or whoever it is, it's some new person. And that's why I have trouble getting new people on. See, because there's a lot of folks out here kind of understand, know what they're doing, okay? I understand fully what they're doing. And I understand the churches. The churches are to divide us and conquer us. The house of Israel. I'm not talking about everybody else. I'm talking about Israelites. That's all I talk about. They can run and jam and do whatever they want to do. I'm talking from Scripture. We're referred to as Israelites. Okay? When Pam was talking about Revelations, if you read chapter 20, verse 14, 15 verses, right away you'll find out who he's coming back to. 144,000, 12,000 of each tribe of Israel. That's it. Nobody else is included. They're all added by these certain people. Then all these organizations that are out here are just more to contaminate us, and they use the people out here. Anne is a very persuasive woman. She's very, very strong and very tough, and she's a Jesuit. But they call her, because she's a woman, she's a Jesuitess. Have you studied them guys? Got to study those folks. Then you got the Masons. And then you got all these different organizations that we belong to that separates us out. We take oaths to different things, and they don't mean anything to them at all. Like the Kol Nidra oath. Okay? And all you got to do is follow what our Father said when he saw him there. He noted them by name and described them. Okay? I told him, he said, you're from your father Lucifer. You ought to see him get really hostile. And I tell him, when I'm in conversation with him, I see you're the children of Satan. Oh, they don't like that. Well, we're the children of Yadivayi. He created us. Okay? They're not part of the creation. They are because of Satan being an angel, an archangel. But the other part is human. Eve. That's why I say if you don't understand the beginning of this, you'll never understand anything throughout Scripture. It's over and over. It's just the way it is. So it's a very difficult time, Dave, out here with and people think you're being critical. No, you're just being wise when you say, I got to look out for this group here. I got to look out what's going on. What are they doing? What's transpiring? Now, I know Judge Doucette, very personal, very personal. He's not a man of stupidity, and Nolte wasn't either. Okay, but they whatever they did, the support was pulled from underneath them. So, and once they get you to do something that would get them in trouble, they just do away with you. They didn't do anything to help him. Terry Russell, his wife, went and got an attorney because they didn't help him. Dave, it's like you and I having a relationship, okay? And then all of a sudden you get in trouble, and I just say, well, see you later. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile, where'd that come from? They're all aggressive man-eaters, aren't they? Yeah. So we have to be very cautious. Divide and conquer the intelligence. Because there's not an Israelite out here, and I listen to a lot of you guys speak, that are just super intelligent. I may not understand because of my own ignorance, but I know from what's being said makes sense to me. Okay, it may not be fully understandable for everybody or everything, but I do have enough common sense to be able to understand common things. And this is where I stand. There's a whole bunch of people out here that scare me to death. They scare me to death. I yield back to you, Dave.
Pam asked, did you say Anna was a Wiccan?
She is a Jesuit.
A Jesuit.
Yeah, but they call her a female is called a Jesuit. What is it, or something like that? There's a female distinguishing foot. She's a very powerful lady, my friend. Very powerful. And if you look down and you look at things, you'll find the people that are supported are probably Jesuits. They're a very, very, very strong outfit. Very strong. Do you know anybody that's involved in it?
No. Involved with the Jesuits?
Pardon me?
Do I know anyone that's involved with the Jesuits?
Yes.
No.
I don't even know the I consider everybody all, I know they're not, but
Well, let me just, Pam, stay on there. Just let me give you a real quick example.
Okay.
My uncle was a big shot at Henry Ford, okay? And he was a 33-degree Mason. And when I took my apprenticeship, I moved into them in their beautiful home out in Beverly Hills or whatever it was. And he already had a big position there. So we're not going to go into that part of it. He was a 33-degree Mason. One day he come up here after he was right near retirement. And he said to me, Gary, he said, I was one of his favorite guys. He always wanted a son that would be something, and his two sons were not exactly what he was aspirating to have. But anyhow, he said to me, I got something I want to share with and tell you. He said, you cannot be a Mason and be a Christian. And I said to my uncle, Ed McDougall, that name should ring out to them.
I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't hear you. There was some background noise in the house.
His last name was McDougall.
Okay, but he said you cannot be a Mason if what?
You cannot be a Mason and be a Christian.
I see, okay.
He was a 33-degree Mason. He gave up his Masonship. And he even said to me, Gary, I almost talked to you about, which I was never supposed to do, about you becoming a Mason for your benefit. But he said, I never did it. He said, I'm so happy that you kept the straight road. He said, I know people talk about you a little bit, but he says, you really are one of my favorite men in all families. And he said, I'm so happy that I was able to help you to get your first job in the apprenticeship. And that's how it started. So he was a trustworthy man. He was the most trusted man Henry Ford had. He went through the trade school, then he went through the apprenticeship program. He was just a Ford guy all the way, okay? And they really liked him. He was an honest man. He'd done contracts, and he never took a dime from anybody. He returned gifts and stuff. But when he told me that, I started looking into things a little bit. There's a number of people. Once you attain the position, you can never be a Christian. It's impossible. Okay? So we have to be very cautious out here, and I've been more than cautious over the years of being very careful who I become a close associated with. And it's kind of simple because I didn't associate myself with people that weren't farmers, basically. Basically, there are some high-up Masons in the farm community, but not a lot. The church I went to growing up was a Methodist church, and they had probably 15 or 20 men that were Masons in the church, small country church. Yep, and we had a Mason preacher. Yep, maybe a couple of them over the time I was there. So we have to put these things together. We may not like it. We may not like to hear it. But the biggest problem we have out here is our brothers and sisters who saw their birthright. And that affects you and I more than anything else on the face of this earth. And they do it every day. And our Father, come to it, you can look it up, it's called the proselyte. And he warns the proselyte. Read it. He calls his voice a child of hell. Just read it. Just look up the word proselyte. You'll get a real awakening.
I appreciate you very much, Gary. And, I worked at Ford, and I appreciate that opportunity to work there. I appreciate, and I know that every corporation, started out with, mom and pop. They had to, well, I believe, unless they bought it, right? But some of the people that I used to work with, I've seen them at a store or whatever.
You got to speak up a little bit more.
So I saw, a couple people, after I retired, and they're like, good to see you, whatever. And then some were like, good luck to your family, just like, when I was at the church and I got my candle for my mom's memorial, and the father was like, good luck to your family. I'm like, God, I'm hearing the same words, And I've been, studying a little bit about, different societies, like the Masons and there's a bunch of them. And my girlfriend, she says, oh, they're just clubs, there's nothing. They're just clubs. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I think it's more than just a club, And she was, no, they're just clubs. Well, her aunt was an Eastern Star. So that's a Mason's wife, right?
Right. A subsidiary of the Mason.
Uh-huh. And so, and I don't know. I guess there's power in all of that, but I do want to be a Christian. I think our founding fathers came here as Christians, right?
You can't be a Mason. You cannot be a Mason or an Eastern Star and be a Christian.
So when they came here, they were all Christians.
Well, see, the history is split. You're familiar with the story at Plymouth Rock, right?
What was that, from the what?
From Plymouth Rock.
Okay, yeah.
The ship that landed at Plymouth Rock. Then the land here was concentrated by Yadi himself, our father, the creator. Okay, so one of the only places in the world that he consecrated. He gave it a blessing. And I was giving at Plymouth Rock there. And the people that come at Plymouth Rock were Christians. I'm not sure where Jefferson and Washington anymore. They were not close friends with Aaron Burr. That was for sure. Okay, so there was a people out here that served Yadi Bahi in the capacity that no one else has ever stood in that capacity. Okay, once in a while we run into some people that, they have a weird way of life and everything, and maybe they've been influenced by the Father, the Creator. I don't know. I just don't know any of that stuff. But I do know there are people, and I do know that Aaron Burr was a man of faith, and he took on the apostolites and such as Washington and Jefferson. And all these people were apostolites. They end up being big landowners, with all the land and everything. And then if you talk about the Jesuits were the first people to have black slaves brought into the country. And they farmed basically in Maryland. And they brought over the slaves to Maryland. And that Jesuit community ran the farms. And of course they used the blacks as slaves. So, and you'll find out the Black Pope is a Jesuit. They call him the Black Pope. It's a very powerful organization. Very powerful.
I see. And so then the Jesuits, they were white, right? And they probably had some black slave hanky-panky stuff going on. And
they were the first ones to have slaves in America. The Jesuits.
But there may have even been white slaves.
Slaves or black slaves?
Could have been both, right?
No, they were black.
White people were the first slaves in America.
Well, these were the first black slaves.
Well, the Irish were the first slaves in America.
And that's fine. I'm just saying they had the black slaves in Maryland before they had them in the other parts of the South. because it was a Jesuit colony.
I really do appreciate your knowledge. It really
well,
is.
This is what I do. This is what I do. I study scriptures, and there's more I don't know than I do know. So you got to be careful when you're figuring out things. Like, for instance, you know who, if you don't have the books to read, who was Satan's partner, sexual partner? Who was his sexual partner?
Eve.
Her name was Lilith. I called her Lethal. Okay. And there's what they call today in New York State or City or whatever, and maybe other places. There's what they call the Lilith Society. How familiar are you with them?
Well, people had missed.
You got to speak up. You got to speak up more.
People had mislabeled me and said, "Oh, you're paranoid. You're paranoid. You're looking at this and that." You know what? When you have as many things to look after and look around and be watchful, you might be considered, one of those that are paranoid. But you have to have a pair of eyes to see what's going on. And so when you have smart people around you that are bringing these things to your attention, instead of trying to cover up things with a mask and, trying to, like brainwash the past 50 years of children, it's horrible what's going on. And I have, even with my own, circle of, people that I know for the past 50 or more years, trying to explain to them different things that, I've just been learning, 5, 10, 15 years. It's very difficult to try and, kind of teach them even a little bit at a time. And so I really do appreciate, these calls, all of you, Mr. Stewart and, all of you guys. So I appreciate it.
Well, Pam, what you just do, you study and you pray and you take care of the situation, and then you, as you understand things, you don't trust anybody, including Gary. You kind of make your own decisions and your own thing. And there's times that I've come up with some things that I've listened to, and when they're all thought out, they aren't quite as good as they are when the person's trying to propagate it. And then you have to ask them, what are they propagating it for? Is it about money? Most usually, it's about money. So when you get the picture painted, okay, normally people charge for their pictures. That's the way it is, isn't it?
What did you say? Picture payment?
You get a picture you hire somebody to paint a picture for you.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. And they normally don't pay you. They normally don't pay them some. They normally don't pay you any money until you get it done. You see? So you have to be careful when you're associating with folks. Where's the pay? Where's the payday? There was an old Baptist preacher when I grew up in the neighborhood, a real elderly man, and he stated, folks, he'd prayerfully say, they may get away with it here, but there's payday someday. And that satisfied a lot of people's ill feelings, and they're getting in more trouble. Because if you get vindictive and you make some mistakes or error and get yourself in a jam, that sometimes you didn't think things out well, okay? So the ideal is to rile you up and get you to do evil things. That's what the whole story is about. Follow people that are able to, let's put it this way, psychologically put you to sleep, okay? And this stuff does work, not on everybody, but it works on people. That's why they make sure that everything that they do out here, they get a certain following. And I was listening to the situation where they're talking about, having a big following. Well, the people who study the art of putting people at ease and getting them to do things they want them to do, the people who are most successful at are the people that are the most educated, and they watch and they follow and they know what they're doing. Okay, well, they just didn't strike out one day and say, "Oh, that's what I'm doing." Well, in other words, you got to be careful what you listen to. You have to evaluate it word by word.
True. Very true. And what you said, not to be don't go against those or something you said. I don't know exactly what you said, but what if you're just going along and you're doing what you think is right, and then all of a sudden just kind of like, whoa, I don't think this is where I was supposed to go, right? Because I walked down 40 years of wilderness, I feel, and I felt that I got my life back, and so that's why I changed my thought process to go towards a different way. And I just I don't want to hurt anybody, and that's where I want to stand. I just want to do what I feel is right for me and my family, and protect my family, and surround myself with more educated people. But I don't want to be, like you said, lulled to sleep. And I do see that happening, and I think I even heard other people say, sometimes I feel like I get distracted. I think that's the enemy. I think there is a war on to try and distract us from. For me, I know it's I could do about 45 things in about 15 minutes. If I get on the right path, and maybe that's God just slowing me down from wearing myself out. But I like to have the energy. I like to be doing stuff. And there's some people that, now have been programmed to, kind of be laid back or fall asleep when, wait a minute, we should be doing this right now. And those are things that I'm mindful of, and it frustrates me. That's what frustrates me, is when I see that, this person has some good stuff on them, and they could be better, and they could do better. I look to see in other people they're good. And I think that's one of the things that, when I was at Ford, I'd come in there and I'd be all happy and everything, and how you doing, and, just happy to be working, no matter how frustrated. I didn't want to be there either. I cared so much about my family, but I had to work, and it came to a point where I felt like the money wasn't as important as my family needs. So that's, where I appreciate what you said, is because it isn't all about the money. Some people, that's all it is, about the money and the cars and, all the other things, And if you put that before God, I think you're going to go down the wrong path.
I think it was very good the other night. I was back a while on the call from Utah, and Ed, they asked Ed. He's not on the program as much. He's still wanting to have a Bible study maybe this Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure where he's at on that. But they asked him, they said, "Well, Ed, what do you think we should all do? How are we going to solve all these problems and everything?" And Ed's quite an educated man. He's really he was a head teacher in the Mormon Tabernacle. He's a genius guy when it comes to scriptures, and he's been excommunicated out of the Mormon Church even. That's how far he went into the background of the scriptures, and he found out that that there's a lot of things that, because the King James Version is the version of the Bible the Mormons are supposed to use, at least the sect of Mormon they are. And he said with everybody listening on the phones, he said, bend your knees, get on your knees, okay? Because he said that is the only one that can save anything or anybody or anything that's going to happen. We're not going to do this on our own. So with that knowledge, and of course if you read Scripture, you'll be able to read it for yourself. With that knowledge, you can say, well, I'm going to try my best to correlate and try and save America if I can. And most people that are involved in it, they're sincere. Some people in it for what they think they can get out of it, but they're sincere, and it's a natural thing. You've heard this story. I'd like to leave the place better off than I found it when I come to maturity. I'd like to leave it a better place to be, and that's natural. If you're a good person, good personality, you try and pass those attributes onto your family. That's just the way it is. But in reality, the Father is going to come. He's going to create a new heaven and a new earth, because the old one will be destroyed, and you don't have to go into many details to figure out where our ground and soil is at in this country and around our neighborhood, with all the different chemicals they use and procedures of doing business. And a man told me the other day he had to go out and spray his soybeans or whatever, spray them with a weed, with a killer. The beans themselves are ready in the pods, but because of their fertilizing program, the plant's still green, still going, and they just can't get it. So they go out and they spray it with a chemical that will kill the bush that the bean is on. See, so and they asked me, they said, "Well, Gary, what's the problem there?" I said, "Well, being organic and not being able to use the procedures, we tried to figure out in a fertilizer program, and see if you're just using NPK, well then, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, then you can put the plant out of balance, and when it should come to maturity in so many days, you've heard that before, I'm sure, Pam, right? It takes 89 days to grow this tomato plant, produce tomatoes. But then the plant will die off in a certain length of time, and then the dry beans will be able to get harvested. Well, it's kind of a simple thing if you look at it, right?
Yeah.
So where'd that Dave go to? Joe?
He was listening.
Okay.
He's here.
And does that make sense? If you fertilize it wrong, it's going to keep growing.
Yep.
Well, we have to put a program together that when the maturity of the crop is, that the plant will die off because there's not enough nutrition there to support life, to regrowth. Okay, so that's why they don't like these rains that are in the fall and they're warm. That gets the plant to want to produce, especially the weeds. If you watch Weeds, you can learn a lot.